I think that this is the start of a lot of the story starting to come out. And so when I heard this at first yesterday afternoon, as these things started to trickle out all together, I said, wow, this is the first time everybody's openly admitting that it was really poisoned between Russ and his former teammates. And now you have Pete Carroll, who always seemed to be coddling and babying Russell Wilson, also admitting that this one meant more, quote, you figure it out. So now even Pete is okay talking about it. KJ Wright okay talking about it. Richard Sherman started to talk about it. And I think now that the Band-Aid's been ripped off and he is in Denver, more and more is going to come out. So I tried to listen and read as much as I could about this thing yesterday. And KJ Wright also went on that Seattle sports station and did admit again that part of the resentment was that Carroll held the defense to a certain standard of excellence and didn't expect the same thing from Russ. Babied Russ, at least early. And all of those defensive guys said, if you're going to coach us hard, call out our mistakes in practice, in the film room, in the game, etc., you've got to do it for him as well. And Pete didn't do it. And so that started a lot of the resentment, that he was being babied and he was the golden child. Then what you had is the unraveling of the team chemistry. So I started texting some of my friends, those that have covered the Seahawks, those that kind of knew what was going on, some of the sources that I knew that have covered this story from the Seattle standpoint, etc. And what I gathered was this was a freight train that kept building steam over the course of the years. And we touched on this yesterday out of instinct, and it is validated that what began as Russ, seen as the coddled child, became Russ then growing away from the team as he became more popular and more powerful within the franchise. And that all of those defensive guys that saw Russ throw the football and crush their dreams in the second Super Bowl instead of giving it to Marshawn Lynch, and didn't check out of that play or threw it improperly into the wrong spot where it could be picked off and not low and away where it's either a touchdown or nothing, began to have all of the power of the franchise, and they, one by one, got picked off. The Seahawks traded them or didn't re-up them. So it was Richard Sherman. It was Earl Thomas. It was on and on. They started taking away the guys who were the heart and soul of the defense, but also were critical of Russ. They tried to clear the deck of the critics internally of Russ, and that bent everybody the wrong way. And then Russ, as Russ is, becomes more and more weird, more and more corny, more and more in his own little world, becoming the brand of Russell Wilson instead of the quarterback, instead of the team leader. Russ then demands more control. Offensive coordinators get fired. The offensive game plan starts going just towards him, and he starts griping that he needs more and more and more, and it created a massive division. And so there was a burgeoning resentment right from a very early start that never stopped and kept picking up momentum. And that early on, he was seen as the teacher's pet and, frankly, a bit of a narc. That he was the guy that was socially not like the rest of the team and was teacher's pet and just didn't even care about really fitting in, was in his own little Russell Wilson world, as we see now. And that really created a huge division within the franchise. And so today, when now he's no longer a part of the Seahawks team, which all of those former guys still are Seahawks at heart. I mean, Richard Sherman's never going to be a Niner. He's never going to be a Buccaneer. He's going to be a Seahawk. And Earl Thomas is never going to be a Raven. He's going to be a Seahawk. And Cam Chancellor's a Seahawk. And KJ Wright's a Seahawk. And all of those guys that at their greatest moment are going to be Seahawks. Once they don't have to root for the Seahawks quarterback, Russell Wilson, because he's gone and can just root for the franchise, I think the gloves are going to come off. I think you're going to start seeing this more and more and more. Now, it was put into under a magnifying glass because it was Seahawks-Broncos, Seahawks versus Russell Wilson. But I thought this was pretty eye-opening that 48 hours after the game, it was everybody's willing to say how bad it was finally. Finally, and remember when Greg Bishop from Sports Illustrated, Seth Wickersham from ESPN, when they did these deep dives on what is going on with the Seahawks after that Super Bowl, and KJ Wright said it was never the same after that. After that Super Bowl loss, we could never put the genie back in the bottle. That's what KJ Wright is saying. When Wickersham and Bishop and others reported on this, the Seahawks said, no, blown out of proportion. They don't know what they're talking about. Anonymous sources, blah, blah, blah. And today we learned it was pretty right spot on.